you're in a very difficult position. You need to be right every minute of every hour of every day. Like you got to look over your shoulder 24/7. And the police, the community, we just have to be right 1 minute.
It's Friday, the 10th day of October. We made it. Another week. Long weekend.
It is a long
Closer
weekend.
look.
Yes.
Michael Friscolanti,
Aren't you isn't every weekend a long weekend for you?
No.
Don't you take Fridays off?
No, I do not take
Mondays?
Fridays off. We are entering into contract negotiations, though, in the next few months. So, the people will talk to the other people, and we'll see if we can get that written in.
I'd love to see those negotiations.
That would be such a short conversation.
Oh, man.
Imagine going upstairs to Jeff. Jeff, Frisco and I were just going to do 4-day work weeks.
They wouldn't even show up the other side. No.
He'd counter with, how about no day work weeks?
As long as we get an air conditioning in here. We joked about it in the Mart Stiles interview, but it's hot in here.
I'd love to go through the B-roll, and Derek does such a marvelous job of trying to make us look good, and God knows he has his work cut out for him.
Yes, so
I had beads of sweat, you saw it.
I thought we were going to cancel the interview halfway through. I thought that was going to happen.
It's close.
I'm sweating. Tigers are playing tonight at 8:00 against the Mariners for a chance to play the Toronto Blue Jays.
I can't wait.
It's like my whole life has led up to this moment. If the Tigers play the Blue Jays, I can't wait to hear from everybody I've ever known in my life. People have already started texting me.
I know. And we have to commit to one another because we will be on opposite sides that, we can't let it come between us.
Oh, it's going to come between us. But there's going to be a direct line right here.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Derek's going to have to stand right here.
The umpire, strike one.
That's right.
All right, good stuff.
Okay, today we're talking Bolo. Be on the lookout.
Yes, this is a program that we hear about kind of once a year. They put out their big push.
Right.
They release a top 25 most wanted fugitives list in Canada.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of, they're really a publicity machine. They do a good job of pumping up these cases that are already on the radar for the police forces that are investigating them. These are alleged murderers, big-time drug traffickers, alleged gang members. And the Bolo program kind of brings a bit of a splash to it. And one of the things they've adopted, I think it was last year they started, they've AI improved the mugshots, so they actually move around, right?
It's wild.
And so I've spent a lot of time just staring at the website.
It's like a rabbit hole.
It's definitely one of those things where it was all over the news this week because there was a big press conference announcing it. There was lots of interviews done. So Max Langlois, he's the executive director of Bolo. He's going to join us for a little more of an in-depth conversation about how the program started, how it's grown, what it does, and sort of how this AI technology works. But it's also just a really interesting opportunity to talk about some of these people that are very, very wanted by law enforcement around the country. So I'm looking forward to this conversation.
On today's episode, we're going to be shining a bright light on Canada's most wanted fugitives and the latest push to try to put them behind bars. Our guest is Max Langlois, Executive Director of the Bolo program, which stands for Be on the Lookout. Max, thanks for joining us tonight. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Can we start with a bit of a history lesson here, Max? Bolo was launched back in 2018. What is it? Who oversees it? And what's the goal?
So the Bolo program, our mission is to encourage citizens to be on the lookout for Canada's most wanted. So we indeed launched in May of 2018 in Toronto with a pilot project with the Toronto Police Service. Very humble beginning. Obviously we need to start somewhere. You need to walk before running. I think now we're more than jogging. I think now we're running. But in 2018, we had to start somewhere. Bolo is the main activity of a Canadian charitable organization called the Stéphane Chrétien Foundation. Stéphane Chrétien is the founder, president, and CEO of a private security company called Garda World that you may have heard of. Garda World is, started with a second mortgage of $25,000 on Stéphane's home in 1995, and now he's got 140,000 employees in 40 countries around the world. So it's a Canadian success story. And Stefan, through his foundation, wanted to give back the community through public safety. And the Bolo program is the main activity of his foundation.
So it's a not-for-profit, basically, then.
Yes, there's a difference between not-for-profits and charities. We're a charity, but yes, in the same, we're doing like there's no profits coming out of this. We're doing this for the well-being of the community. If you're a charity in Canada, you have to spend money. You have to spend 5% of your assets every year. That's a rule of the Canada Revenue Agency. And that's what we do. We do it through the Bolo program.
It's a fascinating program. Is it something where the list changes over every year? Do some people carry over to the next year?
Yes, precisely. So we have a top 25 of Canada's most wanted that we update periodically in cooperation with our police partners. Usually there's one update every calendar year. So there was one update earlier this week in Vancouver. Cases that are outstanding can be reconducted. So about half of the top 25 we unveiled this week was not actually new. There were 9 arrests out of the previous top 25, and 13 cases that were outstanding were reconducted to the new top 25.
Max, how many of these fugitives have been caught since the program first launched?
So I'm going to give you statistics that were up to date Wednesday morning, before we updated the top 25, because now we just added a bunch of new cases, so stats are distorted. But Wednesday morning, 9 a.m., we had featured 78 fugitives, and 42 of them had been located.
Do you know how many were caught specifically because of the Bolo program?
Yes and no. In reality, I speak with investigators, and I often have a good sense of how it happened. So, out of the 42 located suspects we've seen, some were 0% caught because of Bolo, and some were 100% caught because of Bolo, and everything in between. Sometimes it's just good police work. Sometimes it's like a tipster calling in and saying, I saw the Bolo campaign and I know where he is. So it's not an exact science. And I don't see the tips. They go to the police services and they're taken charge by the investigators. So I'm not really in a position to know. But like I said, I often have conversations with investigators, and generally speaking, the word out there is that Bolo makes a big difference.
Max, how many rewards have been paid out? How big are they and who funds them?
So that's a good question. And I can only answer it in general terms. So since 2018, we've offered, I'm going to say probably like between 35 and 45 different rewards. So not all of the 78 cases we featured came with rewards. About half of them did. And out of these, I'm going to say about 40 rewards that we funded, it's about like 35% that I've seen full or partial payments. And now obviously in all these cases, there was a direct correlation between the Bolo campaign and the end result, the arrest. If a payment is made, well, it's because someone deserved the money. And these rewards, well, they're part of the Bolo program. So they're funded by Bolo, they're managed by Bolo, and they're paid out by our police partners, or in certain cities by Crime Stoppers programs.
All right, let's get to this year's list. There's some pretty serious crimes attached to these 25 fugitives, some for murder, conspiracy, sexual interference. Of the 25, is there kind of a number one target?
Yes, sir. His name is Brian Fuentes Gramajo. He's wanted by the Toronto Police Service for murder.
What makes him stand out from the other 24?
We're a national program. So when we look at these cases, we have a committee doing that. And on that committee sit investigators from different police services across the country. So when we look at cases, we assess them based on our requirements, and then we need to prioritize them. And that case was very particular because here was an alleged Quebec gang member, Montreal-based gang, who went to Toronto to allegedly kill someone, but his gang also has very strong links to Vancouver, to the lower mainland of British Columbia. So when you talk of Canadian quote unquote case that deserves national attention, and for every Canadian to be on the lookout because it could potentially be anywhere. Well, that for us, that was ticking a lot of boxes.
It's kind of leads to my next kind of dumb question, but how do these guys evade authorities and evade the public so well? If there's so much publicity, I mean, your website and your program, but also just what the police have put out, how do they do it?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I get it often. How much time do you have?
We have about 3 hours.
So listen. First of all, police services do catch the vast majority of the suspects, the accused they're looking for. So that has to be acknowledged. Now, for the small percentage of accused who are not located, it's because they actively evade arrest. And when you actively evade arrest, that means you go out of your way to make sure that you don't get caught. What does that mean? That means severing ties with family members, friends, and associates. Well, it can also mean that these family members, friends, and associates actually assist you. It means like usually, not using your bank accounts, using what we call a burner phone. Sometimes it may mean leaving the country, changing, residences as often as possible, being very transient, or just like hiding somewhere, as simple as that, like in a basement somewhere. So it's not everyone is good at that. It requires a level of attention that a lot of people don't have. In the end, everybody gets caught.
Max, we talked about the number one most wanted guy. There must be some other highlights from the list.
Yes, if you take the number two, who's been our number two for quite a while already, Al Boivin. So he's wanted for charges that may seem more superficial at the first look, but he's wanted for drug trafficking. But there's what I will call a gang war happening in Quebec right now. There's some new gangs who are contesting the sort of monopoly that the Hells Angels have gotten over the drug trade in the province for a while. And it's led to a lot of criminal activities being committed in our communities, including collateral victims, innocent collateral victims. So it's a high-profile case for the Quebec Provincial Police, and so it is for us as well. If you look at the number three, we're also Thomas McLean is also wanted for murder by the Toronto Police Service. Number four, Trésor Oringbert is wanted for murder by the Winnipeg Police Service, and the number five, Dylan Denise, is wanted for murder by the Montreal Police Service. So it's very typical for the top five to be made of people accused of murder. So Al Boivin, or number two, is a bit of an exception, but I like to say that the Bolo program has more judgment than policies. If you just look at if we were to rank these cases just by the charges, Al Boivin wouldn't be there. But there's a lot of stuff, obviously, below these charges. There are a lot of ramifications and a lot of impact for the safety of our communities. So he deserves that spot.
If any of those guys are watching this podcast right now, would you have a message for them? Are they beyond the point of where you would say to someone, hey, it's time to turn yourself in?
My message is always the same to them. Call a lawyer and make arrangements to turn yourself in. Everybody wants this to go well. You're in a very difficult position. You need to be right every minute of every hour of every day. Like you got to look over your shoulder 24/7. And, and the police, the community, we just have to be right 1 minute. So it's a very uncomfortable position. And again, we just want this to go well for everyone. So just do like some other fugitives have done over the years, call a lawyer and make arrangements to turn yourself in.
The one thing that's very clear is your organization does do a great job of publicizing this every year, because I do read about it every year. It gets a lot of attention. I think last year there was some life-size billboards or cardboard cutouts of everybody on stage. This year I think you had a police officer with a hoodie on and a mask of each of the 25 suspects. Sort of some interesting brainstorming going on behind the scenes for you guys to come up with these ideas.
Yes, so we took it to the next level this past Wednesday. This was like one of my objectives as the executive director of Bolo is to make this as real as possible, because it is real. These suspects, these accused, they're among us right now, and they will remain this afternoon, tonight, tomorrow, next week if we don't do something. So it's a message to be on the lookout altogether. But if I ask people to be on the lookout, I'm asking you a favor. Well, I want to try to make it as easy as possible for you. So over the years, we've perfected the science of making this as real as possible. So the life-size cutouts have been used. We've also used some very innovative engagement tools like an online contest on our website. We try to make these events, these top 25 updates, as sexy as possible for the media, because we do acknowledge that you need something good, to talk about. Someone asked me on Wednesday in Vancouver, what sort of difference does Bolo make? And I was like, well, no one will be here today talking about these fugitives if that wasn't of Bolo. So on Wednesday, we had literally spoof masks that were worn by police officers, and we had police officers of the right height, weight, ethnicity to wear them. So it was it was a show, literally. It was like a play. We had like a staging area with 25 tables with like all the masks and the little signs, and it's very difficult to see through these spandex spoof masks. So we also had uniformed members to walk in literally these suspects on stage as the press conference began. So, and then at the end of the press conference, obviously all these guys had to be handcuffed. So, we had, so it's literally, we put on a show, but, the media play a vital role in amplifying what we do. And you do it anyway. When a police service issues a most wanted notice, you will talk about it. So Bolo is an extra platform that is used for that. And we like to serve you good media coverage on a silver platter.
Well, we appreciate that,
helps,
Max. Yeah. You're also harnessing AI technology so that the mugshots on the website actually move. And if anybody has ever seen the Harry Potter movies, that's the first thing I thought of was the moving pictures on the walls at Hogwarts. Max, how is that technology helping you out?
Yeah, I think it's fabulous. Going back to what I was saying earlier, this should be as easy as possible for people. So just to have like a static picture is not really user friendly. And, and here I'm just not talking about the picture itself, but the quality of the picture. So if someone is wanted for murder and has never been arrested before, police services, they need to find a picture of the suspect. So often they will resort to get a driver's license picture or a passport picture. But often these pictures, although they're taken with $3,000 cameras, they're saved in a very poor format. So you end up with, someone was asking me the other day, if you take a picture with your iPhone right now of the wall, it's going to be 2 megabytes. Sometimes we get pictures that are 20 kilobytes. So that's like, 1,000 of, anyway. So the resolution has always been a problem. Sometimes pictures are good, sometimes they're bad. So the first thing we're doing systematically now with all these pictures is that we AI enhance them. So we reconstruct the pixels somehow. And the other layer we put to it is that we animate them. And it's incredibly simple now. So why having a static picture when you can give people a better idea of like, how the head moves back and forth and, the facial expression. And it's not about telling people what these suspects look like right now. It's about giving them a better clue of how they may look like.
I'm not going to lie. I found myself staring at it for longer than I probably
know.
should have. It's really well done.
Good. That's what I want.
So I think if I see one of them, I would actually notice them now.
Max, so let's speak to that. Bottom line, what should people do if they run into or see one of these suspects?
First of all, you don't do anything yourself. These the vast majority of these suspects, they're considered armed and dangerous. So we live in a country in which we have very competent police services that we can trust. So you don't do anything. As soon as you're out of the way, you call 911, and then you report what you just saw. Now, if you have something to report that is not about you seeing something right there, right now, you call the police or you call Crime Stoppers. If there's a reward offered, more and more, and I'm not going to go into the detail, but you have to call specifically the police because these tips, they have to be actioned right now. If, for example, you call to say, well, I know where Mr. John Doe will be tonight. Well, obviously, it's very time sensitive. So that's why the police, they want you to talk to an investigator. So, with the Toronto Police Service, with the Winnipeg Police Service, they've activated 24/7 specific numbers for Bolo cases. So you always talk to a police officer, and it's confidential.
Good to know. Good advice. A couple more questions, then. We appreciate all your time, Max. What drives you personally to do this? Obviously, it's a big task. It's one that keeps you up at night, I'm sure, and I assume one that carries a little bit of risk as well.
Yeah, like all jobs, I believe, but this is special. I will acknowledge it. It's definitely the most rewarding job I've ever had. Even if I fulfill myself more in future positions. I think in terms of doing something that's rewarding and seeing the real impacts, I don't think any other job can top this. I'll give you an example. Our previous number one, Dave Turmel, who was also wanted for drug trafficking in Quebec, similar to Al Boivin, our current number two, he got arrested, and now it's fully acknowledged publicly that the gang war that I was referring to earlier has actually slowed down in the metropolitan Quebec City area. So it has we don't do obviously I don't arrest anyone. The police do. We try to help. We try to give these cases that little push sometimes that's needed, and in that case, we overall contributed to that push. So. It makes a difference, and more it's acknowledged. So, I sleep well. I sleep very well.
All right, there's Max Langlois, the executive director of the Bolo program. Thanks, Max. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours.
Likewise. Thank you.
All right, everybody has to go to this website and check out the moving wanted pictures. It's almost freaky. boloprogram.org. Check it out. And if you've seen Harry Potter, tell me it does not remind you of the pictures at Hogwarts. Guaranteed.
You know what for sure has happened to you? You know that some of these guys have gone on that website and they're looking at themselves.
That's got to be weird.
That's weird. And I wonder how many. He talked about that, how they are purposely evading police, right? And so you wonder about, you hear about stories about fugitives who've done plastic surgery, who've totally changed their appearance any way they can, living under false identities. I'm assuming, we probably all assume that some of these guys have left the country. They're living in other parts of the world. But that he's right in that sense. Imagine where your whole life is spent, evading police. I think of Whitey Bulger. Remember the gangster from Boston? For decades he was missing. I forget where they found him. He was living with his wife in some apartment. He was 80 years old by the time they found him. But he lived his whole big chunk of his life on the run and as the FBI's most wanted man. And he managed to do it for decades. So, it's great to hear that some of these guys get caught. I think it was 42 was the number. But you can just imagine the lengths to which some of these guys are going to not be found.
Crazy.
So let's hope maybe someone watching the show will find one of these guys.
You never know.
And if they're out there and they want to come on the show, they're more than welcome. That's also an open invitation.
Door's always open, man. Even for those guys.
Right on.
Right on. Okay, Thanksgiving weekend. I can't wait to dive into a big turkey and stuffing and all the fixins, and then find a couch and hold it down. Watch some sports on TV.
Let's hope it's Tigers Jays Sunday night.
Oh, wouldn't that
Let's
be
go.
fantastic?
Let's go.
All right, for Derek Turner, executive producer here at Closer Look, and Michael Friscolanti, our editor-in-chief at Village Media. Two guys that this guy is thankful for. Enjoy your long weekend. We'll see you next week right here on Closer Look.
Frisco and Scott's Wardrobe provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.